The Battle of Stalingrad stands as perhaps the most brutal and devastating engagement of World War II, a desperate struggle that would claim nearly 2 million lives and mark a decisive turning point in humanity's greatest conflict. In the summer of 1942, Adolf Hitler's Wehrmacht seemed unstoppable as it drove deep into the Soviet Union, setting its sights on a crucial prize, the industrial city of Stalingrad on the banks of the Volga River. Named after Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, the city held both strategic and symbolic importance. Its capture would secure Nazi Germany's access to the oil-rich Caucasus region and deliver a crushing psychological blow to the Soviet Union. But what began as a confident German advance would transform into a nightmarish war of attrition that would shake both nations to their core. The initial German assault began on August 23, 1942. The legendary German Sixth Army, commanded by General Friedrich Paulus, unleashed a devastating bombardment that turned much of Stalingrad into rubble. Over 1,000 German aircraft dropped incendiary bombs across the city, creating a firestorm that killed thousands of civilians and reduced wooden buildings to ash. The mighty Volga River itself seemed to burn as oil storage tanks erupted in flames. But from the ruins, Soviet resistance emerged with fierce determination. Stalin issued his famous Order Number 227, "Not one step back," making retreat punishable by death. Soviet General Vasily Chuikov established his 62nd Army headquarters in a bunker on the steep western bank of the Volga, declaring that his forces would defend Stalingrad to the last soldier. Every street, every building, every room became a battlefield. The fighting in Stalingrad redefined urban warfare. Soviet defenders transformed bombed-out buildings into fortresses, using rubble for cover and creating interlocking fields of fire. Small units of 8 to 10 soldiers, known as storm groups, would hold individual buildings or even single floors. The Germans called this brutal close-quarters combat Rattenkrieg, rat war, as soldiers fought room to room, floor to floor, often engaging the enemy at distances of just a few meters. Iconic locations became synonymous with the battle's ferocity. The grain elevator, a massive concrete structure, was held by just a few dozen Soviet defenders against repeated German assaults. Pavlov's house, a 4-story apartment building, was fortified by a small Soviet platoon that held out for nearly 2 months against constant German attacks. The Stalingrad tractor factory continued producing T-34 tanks even as fighting raged within its walls, with newly completed tanks driving directly into combat. By November 1942, the German Sixth Army had fought its way to control nearly 90% of the city. But this would prove to be Hitler's high-water mark. On November 19th, the Soviet Union launched Operation Uranus, a massive counteroffensive that encircled the German forces in Stalingrad. Over 250,000 Axis troops found themselves trapped in a frozen pocket, surrounded by Soviet forces and cut off from supply. The winter of 1942-1943 brought unimaginable suffering. Temperatures plunged to -30 degrees Celsius. German soldiers, lacking winter clothing, resorted to wrapping themselves in Soviet uniforms stripped from the dead. Horses were consumed for food, followed by rats and eventually boot leather. Medical supplies ran out, leaving wounded soldiers to die slowly in makeshift hospitals in frozen basements. Hitler refused to allow the Sixth Army to attempt a breakout, insisting they fight to the last man. Luftwaffe attempts to supply the pocket by air proved woefully inadequate, delivering only a fraction of the 60 tons of supplies needed daily. By January 1943, German resistance began to collapse. On January 31st, Hitler promoted Paulus to Field Marshal, expecting him to commit suicide rather than surrender. No German field marshal had ever been captured alive. Instead, Paulus surrendered the next day. The scale of destruction and death at Stalingrad remains almost incomprehensible. Of the 91,000 German soldiers taken prisoner, only 5,000 would survive to return home years later. The Soviet Union suffered even greater losses, with estimates suggesting over 1 million military and civilian casualties. The city itself was reduced to rubble, with nearly every building destroyed or damaged. Stalingrad marked the first major defeat for Nazi Germany and shattered the myth of Wehrmacht invincibility. It represented a psychological turning point in World War II, demonstrating that Hitler's forces could be beaten. The victory gave the Soviet Union renewed confidence and momentum that would eventually carry the Red Army all the way to Berlin. Today, the modern city of Volgograd, renamed from Stalingrad in 1961, bears countless memorials to this pivotal battle. The enormous statue, "The Motherland Calls," stands 85 meters tall on Mamayev Kurgan, a hill that saw some of the war's heaviest fighting. Beneath it lie the remains of over 35,000 defenders, a testament to the sacrifice and determination that turned the tide of World War II on the banks of the Volga River. The Battle of Stalingrad remains a powerful reminder of both humanity's capacity for destruction and its ability to endure unimaginable hardship. It stands as a testament to the terrible cost of totalitarian ambition and the price of victory in humanity's deadliest conflict. The echoes of those terrible 6 months continue to resonate, teaching us vital lessons about the true nature of war and the importance of preserving peace.